Welcome back to our program. You know, I looked at a number of national polls this week, and they don't bode well for the country or the feeling of encouragement on the part of so many Americans out there right now. Here's a poll Rasmussen just this week, August 17th. Right direction or wrong direction? 15% of likely voters say the U.S. is heading in the right direction. 15%. That's up from, that's down from 10 points a month ago, 20 points a year ago. In other words, 35% were saying we were in the right direction a year ago. Today, only 15%. So there's a real discouragement on the part of so many people in this country today that obviously of deep concern. You look at so many other factors. 62% expect to pay higher interest rates in this country. We talk about partisan politics. 70% of likely voters say that they expect partisan politics to get even more partisan in the weeks and months to come. There's just no good news out there. And of course, we've got this proliferation of new candidates in the Republican process to be the nominee to run against Obama. The president is off in Martha's Vineyard, doesn't seem to be that concerned about it. Well, I know he's got his whole staff there with him. I never understood that about, particularly in bad economic times, why the president takes these luxurious vacations. There's nothing wrong with the White House. You got a bowling alley and a swimming pool and all kinds of benefits in the White House. You go to Camp David, 15, 20-minute helicopter ride away, a luxurious place in the mountains, and yet the president has to go to frolic with the rich and the famous up in Martha's Vineyard. It may not be a substantive problem, but it's a perception problem. And you know what? In politics, perception is reality. All the Congress has taken a summer break. They're off back home, while millions of Americans in my state and your state are there without jobs and are deeply suffering because of the economy. I know I talked to an elderly citizen last week, a lady whose husband passed away. She thought she had enough money to get through her life and leave a little bit to her grandkids. Now she's worried, and for very good reason, because of the economy. And yet these presidential wannabes say, well, we're going to get America back to work. That's what Rick Perry said this week, the governor of Texas. He's the flavor of the week, the new Republican candidate who's jumped in this race. We're going to get America moving again. Well, what's your plan, Governor? Let's hear specifics. Nobody has laid out a specific plan to get people to working, to get people back to work. We haven't heard any specifics. Perry says, well, the Texas miracle. He's created out there in Texas 38% of all the jobs that have been created in America have come out of Texas in the last 2.5 years. There have been a number of new jobs, but what's the basis of it? Well, oil and gas. When the price of oil is up to over $100 a barrel, there is an incentive to hire a lot more people, put many people back to work. I know something about this living in Louisiana. We have thousands of stripper wells that at $40 and $50 a barrel, it's not worth taking the oil out of the ground. But at $100 a barrel, you hire trucks, you handle workmen to go out and take that oil out of the ground, so you put a lot more people to work. And oil is up there right now. So some of the old wells are getting revitalized again because of the price of oil. That's got nothing to do with governors and politicians. That's just the economy. You've also got military installations all over Texas. We've got many in Louisiana. There's an increase in military spending. That means that private contractors can supply those bases with a lot more money. Got nothing to do with being who the governor is. That's just a fact of life in Texas and many states. Had an interesting conversation with a professor at the University of Texas who'll be on the show in a couple of weeks, who says that drugs play a big factor in the Texas economy. So much of the drug money goes over into Mexico. Mexicans, because of the instability in that country, are getting very worried. They're bringing the money back into the U.S., paying cash for $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 homes, putting their money in the local economy. That has really turned dollars over in San Antonio and El Paso and helped the Texas economy. So, Governor, you can't take credit for those kind of things. And if you're stealing jobs from, say, Oklahoma to come into Texas, that's not a solution for the national problems. You've got to be articulate. You've got to tell us just specifically what you mean. Interesting article in the Wall Street Journal this week. Let me tell you what the Wall Street Journal said about the candidates for president. You've got a whole proliferation of candidates running. The Wall Street Journal editorial says that Republicans are desperate for a unifying candidate, and that if, quote, the current field isn't up to that, perhaps someone still off the field will step up and run. That's kind of like the official newspaper in Rome saying, well, all that crop of cardinals out there just ain't quite what we need to be the next pope. When the Wall Street Journal is raising questions about Republican legitimacy, there's problems across the board in both parties. We've got trouble in River City. River City is not just where I live. It happens to be the whole United States. And right now, it doesn't look that positive, because those wannabes who want to be president are not specifically laying out a scenario. And there's some ideas out there. We've talked about them on this show. We'll talk about them again. Hey, we'll take a break, and I'll come right back with you right here on Jim Brown's Common Sense.